Oh, hi there.
Well, hello. We are on episode 7
Woo!
of season 2. We're like seasoned professionals at this point.
Wow, those are big shoes to fill.
I know. We should probably stop now
Right.
before we get too big and famous.
That's right. That's right. I don't know if I could handle it.
I know. It'll detract from our jobs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. The library would miss us. Yeah.
All those public appearances we'll have to do.
That's right. Yeah. All those podcast appearances.
So I have been reading quite a bit, and we've had a couple of weeks off, so
yeah.
I always seem
time.
Yeah, exactly. I always take advantage of those and get a lot in. And I actually have read a lot of good stuff, so I'm excited.
Take it away.
Yeah. The first couple of things, have to give a shout out to Nancy, my bud, who mentioned one of these. And it's a comic sort of style this person has. Allie Brosh. And I read 2 books. One is called Hyperbole and a Half, which is awesome. And then
great title.
Solutions and Other Problems. And they are really hilarious, but they deal with serious subject matter. She had struggled with depression and anxiety and mental illness to a certain extent. And so but she approaches it in a really unique way where she she takes ownership of it, but she she's sarcastic and sardonic about it, but she's actually been lauded for doing so in a way that is actually really helpful for people that are struggling with the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is it's tough. I was going to say a tough pill to swallow, but it's a bunch of tough pills to swallow. And I think that, it's so important to find a way that, makes it easy to swallow.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are some genuine laugh out loud things. One of them, she talks about she has these 2 dogs, and I've got a new puppy, and I was really identifying because we're going through the I don't know, it's the equivalent of the terrible twos or something.
Yep, that seems right.
Yeah. And so I could definitely feel
that's hilarious.
Feel her pain on that. But otherwise, the only thing that I'm kind of iffy about is that she uses these little extra simplified, like little cartoon characters. It's almost it's more novel than graphic novel, but it's got a graphic novel style.
Yeah, borderline.
Yeah, and so I get it. I'm not crazy about it, but
it didn't totally turn you off.
No, and some of them are really funny, but that's not usually my bag.
I see you.
But I definitely recommend those, and we have them as ebooks, so if anybody wants to check those out, they're out there.
Yeah.
And then there was another one that I started a while back and then came back to it because it kind of, my to be read pile is atrocious. It is just, I'm very greedy when it comes to reading. And so I'm like, I want this one, I want to read that, I want to read that. And so,
because why not? Who's stopping you?
Yeah. I can even say, hey, it's my job. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly.
But it is, I have to say that it is very sad. Everybody thinks librarians just sit around and read books at their job, but I
Yep.
have never once been able to do that. So let me just put that myth to
Yeah.
rest
Well,
because,
I can get away with it sometimes
yeah,
because they're children's books. Like I always read the new children's books we get in, and
yeah, but it takes you 2
I feel
minutes.
justified. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
And
but
yes, you should be reading those, but
yeah.
I thankfully do not have to read every nonfiction book
Every
that I order because I wouldn't want to spend my day doing
Yeah,
that, first of
yeah,
all.
yeah.
But this book is called The Universe in Miniature
Uh-huh.
by Patrick Somerville. And so it had been in my pile for a long time, and I was like, how did I come across this? Like, it had been there so long that I couldn't remember why.
Right, where you heard it, yeah.
And then I read it. It was really good. I think he calls it like 15 mini novels in one collection or something.
Oh my gosh.
But they're, short stories and also hilarious, but it's science fiction. It's really quirky and clever. Um, really, really good. And then after I read it, I realized that I had come to that. I had looked him up because he wrote or created the limited series Maniac um,
I don't know if
with
I've seen it.
with Emma. What's her name?
Stone.
Stone.
Watson. Oh, really?
Stone. Yeah.
Awesome.
It came out several years ago, and it
Huh.
is. It was just one season, and
Okay.
it is wild.
Okay. Like, check it out, Wild, or you're good
No, check it
not
out.
checking. Okay, okay.
It's
Yeah, I
very
will.
bizarre. I want to
Cool.
say
I've
that I
never even
watched
heard
it
of
about
it.
the yeah, I watched it about the same time that I was getting into um, another crazy show, which I am also forgetting the name of. What is wrong with me? I
It's
do this every
Friday.
time.
I mean, we always do this on Friday. Maybe
I
we
know.
shouldn't do this on Friday.
I think yeah, we should start doing this first thing Monday morning.
You're right.
But I'll think of it in the middle of another
Yeah,
thought, and
yeah,
I'll remember.
absolutely.
But it was another. The OA. That's what it is.
I don't know that either.
No.
I
What?
don't think so. What was
You
it on?
must drop your phone right now.
I'm
Go
leaving.
home.
Goodbye.
Go
Recording
home and
over.
watch the OA.
Okay.
No, it's that one was one that is also just wild and crazy and super smart and quirky and weird and clever and all the good things.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
they only did 2 seasons, I want to say, and then they didn't get picked back up, which was like
Ah,
the worst thing. I almost canceled Netflix because of it.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's such a sad story.
It really 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 was because it was so unexpected and I just can't even like there's no way to describe it to you.
Right. Okay.
You just have
Well,
to
and
witness it.
I'm glad I'm going into it knowing, okay, 2 seasons, you know when it's going to end, and
Yeah.
yeah, be prepared.
No, yeah, and it's not one of those where there's like a cliffhanger that will never be solved. Like
Hmm. You
there
just
was
want
an ending.
more.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay. Well, cool.
yeah, that one anyway, I was watching those at the same time, and they're so trippy and mind bending that it was very. Like, I remember, going down both of those rabbit holes about the same
Right.
time. But definitely recommend him. But so that's why I had looked up this guy because I wanted to see what other stuff he had done, and he had written this book, and so
Cool.
it got on my list. But it's very, very good if you're
That's
into
great.
sci-fi kind of stuff.
That's great.
And then along the same note, I read The Psychology of Time Travel
Uh-huh.
by,
I saw that on your desk.
yes, by Kate Mascarenhas, I guess is her
Hmm.
name. And it's set in like an alternate universe where 4 young women, scientists, like one's a physicist and various specialties, invent a time machine. and
Excellent.
they're, yeah. And so that's in like mid 60s, I want to say, is when it's set.
Mm-hmm.
And so they create this time machine, and then one of them kind of has a hard time with it. I won't get into too many details of it, but has a hard
Mm-hmm.
time and then sort of gets kicked out from the project,
Okay.
and then like goes on about her life and, has
Oh,
her
okay.
own story. But the others create this whole, like, since they're able to travel through time, they it's more than like they create a corporation or their
Uh-huh.
own. It's like they create their own little fiefdom, like a government,
Oh, yeah.
because they have, this kind of power that like they can't even really be held accountable to the same laws in the country
Right.
and stuff. So
It kind of makes me think of on the Umbrella Academy, is
mm,
it number 5 or whatever? He's, I don't know, can travel through time.
yes,
And then they're sort of like time police. I don't know. It's a very
exactly.
special office.
Yes, that's actually a really good comparison because
Okay,
it's kind of
good.
how it is. Yeah.
Cool.
And so it kind of actually, like, they can go and visit themselves, and
Oh my
usually in
gosh.
time travel you're not supposed to do that, but they fully
Right.
embrace it in this one.
Right.
And it kind of made me
Which
think,
I love.
oh
I
yeah,
feel like they never show that. I feel like that's such a simple twist on a story of time travel.
yeah,
And cool. Anyway,
yeah.
continue.
So there's it doesn't get too bogged down in like the how would this be possible or whatever, because that's when you lose me, is when
No,
you try to
yeah.
do that.
Don't exactly. Don't watch it if you're gonna
Yes,
do
exactly. And
that.
it kind of made me um, think about like the way it feels when you have family members that you're very close to, but you don't see them very often. And
Mm.
then when you visit, it's kind of like it's outside of time, and you're kind of like, it's not woven into your daily,
Right.
timeline or whatever. And like you're
Mm-hmm.
catching up with them. So have this kind of weird shorthand, but you also, it's kind of awkward because you're not around them all the time,
Right.
and it's usually short lived. And since
Mm-hmm.
we were just coming out of the holidays and everything, it really kind of made me think about like the way that they were describing some of the, like,
Mm-hmm.
meeting each other at all of these different ages and stuff. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, it's very good. And there were a couple of other things I thought were pretty cool about it that I hadn't really seen in some other time
Uh-huh.
travel stuff. So after they've had this technology for a couple of decades,
Mm-hmm.
they come up with this like a little school kid version called, they call them candy boxes, where you can
Oh.
like send your candy into another dimension or whatever, or
Oh.
get it back. And so it's just like a little box, and it's like
Yeah,
a
little.
piece of the technology, but it's not like the full thing.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that is exactly what would happen. Like, you would sell it to
Yes.
kids as a toy.
Oh my gosh, it would become a marketed thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then even more so, it figures into the story in a different way, but it also like then goes out of favor and nobody has them anymore. Like, you
Oh,
know,
that's interesting.
yeah, it's like,
Like it's any other fad.
exactly.
That's so
It was
funny.
funny. And then so they have these people who are that kind of keep that kind of business running.
Hmm.
And they say that the people adjusting the candy boxes weren't scientists. They were librarians and curators, the kind of women who write zines and collect retro toys.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
That is
I
hilarious.
know.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. So um, kind of felt seen there a little bit,
I was
maybe
gonna
too
say
much.
that's a great shout out. Oh, I love it.
Anyway, so yeah, psychology of time travel is really good and different kind of
It sounds like something that could be really cool for TV too. I wonder. I wonder if they'll explore that.
I don't know. And that's a good idea, actually. And we should probably look it up. Maybe they've already optioned it, but
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
new book. It just came out recently. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah, it would be good. Um,
Neat.
so that then led into the one that I'm not finished with now,
Hmm.
but it's actually came a couple of years ago, and I was really surprised that I had missed it. But my mom texted me and said, "Hey, have you read Neverworld Wake,
Hmm.
which is by Marisha Pessel?" And I was like, "She has another book out? Oh my gosh!"
Also, can I just say, try saying that 5 times fast?
Neverworld
One
Wake.
world wake, one world. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to really concentrate on saying that.
Anyway, sorry.
And it is like this really tight group of friends in high school. Tragedy strikes, they grow apart, they go off to college, then they meet up for like one night, and they're in a car accident. And not to give too many details again, but they get stuck in that like
Oh,
24-hour period or whatever. And so they go to sleep,
how
and then
terrible.
yes, it is terrible. Um, but I really like this writer. She wrote the book before that was called Night Film, and it is really dark and twisted, and
Mm-hmm.
but really good. And then her first book was called Special Topics in Calamity Physics, and that one also is very good. And this one, Neverworld Wake, is actually kind of, or it's categorized in some places, lots of places actually, as young adult.
Okay.
But I think it's a little more. I don't think it's really young.
Yeah.
It's because
Yeah.
it's it deals with young people, but it's
Yeah.
pretty dark.
Well, yeah. YA is such a, I don't know, vast genre.
Yeah,
You know, it's what's juvenile, what's adult.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, but I'm enjoying it. I haven't finished it, but I really enjoyed her other books, and I would recommend it if that kind
Cool.
of thing is
Yeah.
appealing.
Nice. Some
Um,
good sci-fi stuff.
yeah, I'm kind of on that. I read a lot of
Yeah.
that anyway, but I've definitely been on that kick lately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I have been listening or introduced to a few podcasts, and some podcasts that I have had known about, but
Hmm.
that's one thing is I've been doing more reading than listening to podcasts, so I'm kind of behind on all that stuff.
Right. You
But
can't do it all.
no,
I
there's
mean,
really there's
yeah.
literally not enough hours in the day to consume all the things.
Nope.
That was one thing in the Neverworld Wake, that they're stuck there, and like one of them just kind of holds herself up in the library and reads every book
Oh my
because
gosh. Well,
you don't
yeah.
have anything else to do, and
Yeah.
you wake up the same day over and over again. So
Yep. Start at the age.
exactly. And so that was momentarily I was like, that sounds like I could
Yeah.
deal with that.
Yeah. The silver lining of this awful day.
Exactly. But then I think after when you finish that library, then you'd be like, okay, let's move on. Like that's
Then what?
now
Yeah.
what? um, so I listened to Mystery Show, which
Mm.
really reminded me of another thing that I've recommended before, which was How To with John Wilson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like this young woman has her friends mostly
Hmm.
tell her something that's happened to them that is a mystery,
Oh.
and or that they can't figure out, and she solves the mystery for them. And so the first one, and sometimes it's pretty dull. Like the solution is not really the answer. It's kind of a MacGuffin in that way, where it's like,
Okay. Yeah.
that's kind of what reminds me of John Wilson, is that he starts off talking about one thing and then it turns into something else.
Surprise. Yeah, that's not what this is about.
Yeah, it's about the journey and like
Sure.
how all the twists and turns and stuff. And so the first one is about a friend of hers who, in New York City, like a couple of decades ago, goes to a video store,
Mm-hmm.
and rents a tape or DVD or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and goes home, watches it next day, goes back, and the store is not there anymore. And so
What?
she's got like physical proof that she's got this DVD. And it
What?
was the first time she'd ever been to this store. So she had to like register, or sign up for an account or whatever.
Yeah.
And just never finds it again. It's just gone.
What on earth?
And so the show is about her friend who, tries to track down what
Okay.
happened.
Oh my gosh. I love that. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
How
Sadly,
fun.
there's not very many episodes.
Ah, I hate
I
that.
know.
I
But
was
they're
that
worth
with radio rental too. Like
Yes.
I wanted that to keep going.
Yeah. That I would not get tired of that. Some of those were
No.
so like spine tingling.
I still tell people some of those stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, yeah. I'll give that one another plug. If y'all haven't listened to Radio Rental,
Yeah.
listen to it.
Well, and then there's one that everybody has listened to and everybody's on top of it. There's a million episodes and they've branched off to do other stuff, and that's Reply All.
I have not.
Oh, well, there's a ton of content on that one. And
Cool.
that's like these three guys, and they just talk about all different kinds of subjects. And it's just a smart, podcast. But they had a spinoff of that, which is what I ended up changing to after I'd listened to some of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Scaredy Cats horror show.
Oh my God.
And it made me think about you because
Yep.
yeah.
I was about to I'm like honored, honest.
And so it's this guy who has never watched any horror movies because he's so scared of them. And he's one of the on the Reply All, guys. And so one of the others who's super into horror movies, he's like, okay, I'm going to make you watch these, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to do it all on a podcast, and it's going to be kind of like immersion therapy or whatever.
Yeah. And we're here to hold him accountable.
Yes, exactly. And so it is good. And like they had, they have a guest on occasionally, and then I am not like a horror fiend. I like thrillers really more, like suspense, that rather than like I don't like gory stuff or whatever.
Right.
But the first one that they watch is The Exorcist. I know. I was like, that's one to start with.
Because I was gonna say, as a scaredy cat who does, I kind of discovered later in my life. I mean, I know I'm only 30, but in recent years that I do like horror movies. Mm-hmm. I just grew up. I was, in high school in the early 2000s, and they were all about gore. Like all horror movies were crazy.
That era was so bad for horror movies.
It was. And I think that just sort of set a precedent in my mind. I thought that's what horror movies are.
Yeah.
And the movie that I watched that turned me on to horror movies was The Shining, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know how I would have felt watching The Exorcist. Like, I don't know if I ever would have wanted to watch a horror movie after that.
Right. Well, so what I really enjoyed about it is they really like go into dissecting it and how it's scary and what, how. And so The Exorcist is actually really different from a lot of other horror movies in that not much happens at the the first half of the film. It's, pretty tame. And it just, but it's going to be scary. So it builds and builds and builds and builds. And they give the guy a hard time in that episode because he kind of cheated the system. So he watches it in the daytime, and then he takes breaks, stops it. The guys who are with her talking to him, guiding him through this, are like, no, you cheated. You can't. That's how it's scary, is that you have to kind of be in that, time. And
I get what they're saying, but I still agree with the scaredy cat because I am one.
Yeah. I have my moments. Mostly I don't, but I love it when a movie can get me because studied film and taught it, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it like you can usually see the tricks coming.
That's what I was gonna say. You know the
Yeah.
formulas. Yeah,
And I'm not
yeah.
saying you have to teach film to see that, but that you
No,
definitely are
no.
aware of it.
Yeah,
But so that's why I was like interested in hearing that perspective, is that
yeah.
like you said, I don't care to like blood and gore doesn't scare me. It just is gross.
No.
And then I like to like something that's really going to
It's
subvert
yes,
your
it's
expectations. Yeah.
suspense. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I walk away from after watching something scary feeling really good. Usually,
Yeah, it's
it's kind of an
cathartic.
adrenaline. Yeah, yeah. Your adrenaline's going a little bit. You're awake, probably.
Maybe until daylight. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just shaking all over.
Yeah. So
But no, I love that. I'm gonna listen to it for sure.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask you. So I'm gonna give you some examples of like moments in film that are just like give you the
Okay.
shivers. And then you see, I didn't prepare you for this before. So if you don't
No,
have one,
that's okay. I'm here for
yeah,
it.
but think about it if you can think of one like that. But
Yeah.
um, it's a movie not everybody has seen. It's from the 90s. It's called Dead Again.
Uh,
And I'm sure I've talked to you about it.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait.
Isn't it called Dead? Yeah.
Did I watch it?
I think I recommended it to you a while back with
Is
Emma
it the three
Thompson.
friends? Wait.
No, it's Emma Thompson and Kenneth Branagh. And he's a,
Yes, I did
yeah,
watch it.
yeah.
Nick and I watched it. Yes.
And so there's a point in it. It's a little hammy in places, and it's of its time period and stuff.
Yes, but
But
I like that about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there is a moment in it, which I'm not going to explain exactly, but
Mm-hmm.
where if I tell somebody, what happens, I still get goosebumps. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't fade. I watched that when I was a teenager, like literally almost 30 years ago.
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah.
and it's still, I'm just like, oh boy, that's a really good one.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
And then the movie The Others has a moment like that too, where you're
Yes.
just
I
like,
watched that one
no.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you probably know the moment I'm talking about,
I do.
and
And it was one of those where you truly gasp.
yeah, yeah, where
Yeah.
just I'm like, I have goosebumps right now.
Mm-hmm.
I get that easily, but it gets me.
No, I love it.
And it's not like I'm not terrified. It's just like it's the thrill, I guess is the best word
Yeah,
for it,
yeah,
of just
absolutely.
like really getting it. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
now one thing that, yeah, this last one though kept me awake, literally, like bothered
Oh
me.
my god,
Still, if I think about it, it will make me look
unsettling.
behind stuff. So
Ugh,
it's actually in a TV show, Twin Peaks. And
okay.
there's lots of things in that are pretty
Yeah,
scary, but
and man, I watched Twin Peaks, but I mean, clearly I have a terrible memory. I just like couldn't remember a full movie that I've seen.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I'm curious on what you're gonna say.
Well, okay, so there's this, if you haven't seen the show, it's going to be kind of, you're not going to really, it's going to be nonsensical, but
Right.
there's a teenage girl who's murdered, and then it just gets weird. So like
Yep.
there's like this paranormal aspect to it. And so
Yeah.
the mother of the girl, well, the parents of the girl kind of go crazy. And the mother is in her living room and looks over, and there's this super creepy guy like
Uh-uh.
crouched behind the sofa.
You told me about
Yes.
this.
And
That's
I saw it, and I was just like, nope. And like
nope. Nope.
I
Nope.
wish I had
Nope.
never seen that. And all it
Uh-uh.
is just a little guy crouched behind the sofa. He has a creepy look on his face.
Mm-mm.
And she's the only one who sees him, I think. And she screams, and she's just like beside
Oh my
herself.
god.
But I watched it. It was like really late at night. I was by myself.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I maybe will never sleep again.
Yeah, that's my worst nightmare, I think.
Yeah. And I even lived in such a tiny place. There was a room for a person to hide in there.
Right,
But
right. But
yeah.
still.
Did not care.
Oh.
And then, like, later I saw on a making of thing, that the guy was actually just one of the crew, and he was trying to stay
Oh.
out of the shot and crouched down, and and then um the director David Lynch was like, I'm using
Uh-huh.
this, and then ended up using
You look creepy right
yeah,
now.
exactly. And then he's like a recurring character in the show.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But then that
Ugh.
kind of took some of the, fear factor out of it for me. I was like, okay, calm down. Why are you so
Right,
scared about
right.
that?
Oh my gosh, but that is so it's just such a great simple
Yeah,
thing to be scared of
exactly.
because it could happen. Yeah, like you can imagine that happening.
Yeah, way too easily.
Like too much. Yeah. The moment that I thought of, and this is a jump moment, but man, it left an impression on me. When I was maybe 12 or 13, my mom and one of her good friends, whose daughter was one of my best friends, is one of my best friends. Uh, they rented Wait Until Dark, starring Audrey Hepburn and who is it? Or
Alan
no,
Arkin.
Alan Arkin. Yes. And so Audrey Hepburn is a blind woman who I can't remember details, but
Yeah.
somehow got their drugs in her possession, but she doesn't know she has them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe anyway, these guys are trying to get them from her and they know she's blind. And so they're trying to kind of trick her. And there's a moment in the dark and oh my God, we had to stop the movie because we all were shrieking. um, yeah, that's a really fun movie. I recommend that one. And, what a jump.
Yes, and that's a good one. That kind of along the lines of like Dead Again is that it's kind of humorous, at least for me at
Yeah.
first. Like it's real broad. I think it's based
Uh-huh.
on a play, and it's like a one room kind of thing where it all takes place in her
Yeah.
apartment, and
It kind of seemed like
yeah,
that. I could see that. Yeah.
and anyway, but yes, it does get you that moment in the dark for sure.
Yep. Oh my gosh, I love it.
So yeah. So anyway, if anybody out there has examples, that would be fun to share, because
Yes.
we've probably seen them too, and we would sympathize with your terror. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely
But that
would.
podcast, the Scaredy Cats Horror Show, is also, I would recommend that, because if you're
Yeah.
into like talking about film and that kind of thing, it's
Yeah.
funny and silly, but it's also thoughtful, thought provoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Let's see. I think,
What else you got for
yeah,
me?
I'm gonna let you talk about some stuff, and then I'll talk about the things that I like.
Sure. Yeah. Kick
Yeah.
it back to you. So first of all, I have to start by saying that my fiance's parents gave us for Christmas a new 58-inch television, and I couldn't be happier. I've never had like a nice new television of
Hmm.
my own. They've always been passed
Oh
down
yeah.
or, whatever. Yeah. So this is very exciting for me. And yeah, so I got to play with that over the break. And one of the first things we watched on the TV was Disney's new Pixar movie, or Pixar's new movie, Disney Pixar's new movie, Soul. Soul is wonderful. I think it's up there on one of my favorite Pixar movies
Wow.
now. Um, it was, first of all, it was really beautiful to watch on my beautiful new TV. And so Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey are the two sort of starring voices. It is just beautiful. It's hilarious too. I mean, how does Pixar make you laugh and cry really hard? Because I did both. But it makes you think about life, and I don't know. I think it would give anyone the urge to, I don't know, make sure they're enjoying their life. I'll
Yeah.
say that. It makes you feel thankful, and I just can't. I clearly don't have the words to tell you how much I loved it.
Well, that's its own message, I think. If you're like, just I
Yes,
can't say
yes,
it. That's that good.
absolutely. No, absolutely, it was wonderful.
But I have
Um,
heard also
so
though that there's a librarian shout out in that movie.
yes, I was gonna say that. I cracked up. It's a great line. And it's, Tina Fey is the one who
Oh, of
delivers
course.
it, and it's said beautifully. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a great story, and it's about, an adult man, and I don't think I can't think of another Pixar movie that is about an adult. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And I think it still manages to be entertaining and silly, and it oh, it's just lovely. Um, and I saw something recently talking about how, Pixar started with like, oh, talking toys, and here we are now unpacking the meaning of life, and yeah, it's again just wonderful. Loved it. Then so I feel like I've explored all of my streaming services on this break. And so I downloaded Peacock. I'm a little bit bitter because they definitely sort of hid some things behind a paywall.
Mm.
Yeah, like there are definitely a lot of fun free movies and shows and stuff. And because this is NBC's streaming
Mm.
service. So there are some, good, fun, free things, but I decided to start I think it's their first original show. So I started it. I watched the first 2 episodes, and then you have to pay to watch the third one. And I was invested at that point. So I'm doing the free trial, but I'll probably end up keeping it. We'll see. But anyway, the first thing I watched was Brave New World. It is based on the famous book by Aldous Huxley, and I read Brave New World in high school, and I think I was telling you this made me realize how little I remember. But I do know that they definitely made some big changes and additions to the story.
Mm.
Um, the three leads, the female lead is I wrote her name down. Hold on. Jessica Brown Finlay.
Hmm.
Finlay. She is Sybil from Downton Abbey,
Oh,
who is like everyone's favorite.
I
Am
think
I
she
just
must be. Yeah.
jumping to conclusions there?
Yeah.
Everyone loves Sybil. And that actress is so lovely. I really enjoyed her performance. Alan Ehrenreich. I'm not sure how you say his last name, but he played Han Solo in the movie about
Oh.
young
Oh,
Han
okay.
Solo. I can't remember what that one was called. Him, and then Harry Lloyd, who I recognized from Marcella. He was the brother.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And he plays kind of a similar character in this. Poor guy. I think he might be a little typecasted. But anyway, if you don't know what the story's about, it's a, I don't know, dystopian sci-fi type world where the world has sort of been made into a perfect place to live, where everyone knows their place and loves their place and is happy to be there. Everyone has all of these is given these pills to take throughout the day that sort of keep them level mood wise. So it's really funny because they keep them in a little clicky thing where the pills come out like a clicky
Mm-hmm.
pen, and something stressful will happen, and you'll just hear like a bunch of clicks as everyone takes their pill. And I will give a warning. The whole idea behind this world is do everything that makes you feel good. It's all about feeling
Mm-hmm.
good, and they definitely show that a lot, a lot. So if you don't appreciate or aren't comfortable
Yeah.
with certain I'll say graphic nudity, maybe skip it. But aside from that, because I did feel like it was maybe a little bit excessive. Aside from that, the story was really fun. it's a new person comes and joins this new world and kind of shakes things up, and it's all about sort of discovering feelings and freedom as a human. And it makes, because in the beginning I was like, sign me up, I want to live there, keep me stable and happy. But then of course, as it goes on, you're like, okay, no, I like making my own decisions, and there is beauty in sadness or anger, and it was a really fun show. And the thing that made me sad was it didn't get picked up for a second season.
Oh.
I know my okay. One thing I really like about Peacock is they show you like the Rotten Tomato
Oh,
scores.
yeah.
Yeah, and so this one had lower critic reviews but higher audience reviews, and I can see
Mm,
why. Like there were some things that I was willing to overlook because it was a fun story and I wanted to know what was going to happen
yeah.
next. I also think that it just I don't think it got enough attention. I don't
I
think
never even heard that it was
anybody
coming out.
exactly. So I don't think it kind of makes me sad because I don't think it was that it's not good. I think people just didn't know about it.
Yeah, I would have watched it if
So
I'd known about it.
yes, and you should if you want to do that
Yeah.
free trial. um, and then moving on to something else on Peacock, and this one was available for free with ads. This is an oldie but a goodie, and one that I had forgotten existed and really glad to rediscover. It is called Inside Man. It's a movie, not a television show. It's called Inside Man, starring Denzel Washington, Clive Owen, Jodie Foster makes an appearance. It's a heist thriller. It's so
It's, yeah.
fun. It's a
And whatever
yeah,
happened to
bank
Clive Owen,
robbery.
anyway?
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
That's weird. Yeah.
Miss him. Miss his face. But yeah, it's a bank robbery setting. It turns into a hostage situation. Clive Owen is an excellent bad guy. Denzel Washington is an excellent detective. And it's one of those where you're seeing a lot of it from the hostage situation or hostage point of view, but you're still sort of tripped up. You don't know who's good and who's bad,
Yeah.
and I always enjoy that in a movie. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. If you have seen it, watch it again. And then my last thing, another Peacock, and I don't think this one is free. A interesting new murder mystery. I think it has 2 seasons, so I don't know if NBC put it out first. Um, I had never heard of it, but anyway, it's called Save Me. And it's, I don't know, just all sort of new perspectives. I don't know. It's kind of the same murder mystery formula with some twists. The main character is this sort of, I don't know, deadbeat dad kind of guy who hasn't been in his daughter's life at all, and he's hopping around, sleeping on friends' couches, and hangs out at the bar, or excuse me, pub, because it's set in England. Hangs out at the pub all the time, and his daughter goes missing. They think he did it. It looks like somebody's maybe posing as him. You don't know what's going on, but it sort of motivates him to try to find out what happened. And they managed to make him, I think, a sympathetic character. Yeah, I normally would not sympathize, I think, with a character like that, but it's really good. And his friends from the pub are sort of the main suspects. So it was a little kind of broad churchy, I kind of felt, in some ways. And I've talked about how that is sort of the high that I'm
Mm-hmm.
chasing with as far as murder mysteries go. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it had 100% on Rotten
Wow.
Tomatoes. I don't want that to be the thing that makes me think it's really good.
Well, but
So I am.
no, it can be a good
Oh, go ahead.
indicator for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely made me watch it. But I am, I'm trying to stay a little bit skeptical just in case. I still want to form my own opinion. But so far, I'm, 4 episodes in and really enjoying it so far. So that's a great new
It
one.
sounds good.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely recommend. But yeah, those are the big ones, the ones that are noteworthy for sure.
Well, I watched the film Tenet. Yeah,
Oh.
and I watched it with my sister and my nephew, and because I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, mentioned a couple
Mm-hmm.
of his films last time that we talked.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
I don't think I had. I don't think I talked about this one in the last one, but uh,
I
I'm
don't
not going to
think so,
say
but
much because I did definitely went into it without having read anything about it or like looked at a trailer or anything. I was just like,
right. Yeah, I've heard
yeah,
the name and that's it.
because I like
So
to see those things without. I think trailers these days show too much,
me
and
too. Give me 30
yeah,
seconds.
I don't want to see things that happen
I
at the
mean,
end of the
not, I
film.
don't need,
Like
no, I don't need
yeah.
3.5 minutes. No, I'm
So
with you.
yeah, so I definitely stayed away. So I'm not going to say much about it, but it is um, definitely worth watching, and um, it
Right.
is going to make you think. I mean, but everything that he makes
Okay.
does that. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and at first, there were a couple of times where we are like, okay, pause it. What's going on? You know,
Yeah, but I kind of like
sure.
that sometimes. It's
But then it wasn't,
yeah,
yeah.
within
And
reason.
it wasn't like, you do that and then you're still frustrated because you can't figure it out. You can,
Right.
it's like with his other films, there were a couple of things in Inception where you're like, oh, hold up, is this what you
Yeah.
picked up from
Yeah,
that or not?
absolutely.
Um, but that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what makes them, I mean, those are the movies that you want to go back
Mm-hmm.
and watch again. Because you'll discover something new
Yeah.
every time you watch them. So,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
So it's
that.
definitely watchable. And I fully enjoyed it. We all did. And then I've been watching, and I'm bitter about it because it's not straight, like it's not bingeable. It's just coming out one episode a week.
Uh
But I watched the
yep.
first one and got, sucked in. So now, like a schmuck, I'm watching it every week. But it's the Stand, the new adaptation of The Stand by Stephen King.
Oh, I want
Yeah,
to.
there's
Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to wait then until it's all out.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. It takes place over a period of time,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
you know maybe it's good to break it up a little bit and not binge it all at once.
Right.
But or if you have
Okay.
it, I don't have any self-control, or I would have done the same thing, but instead I'm just gonna tune in every week. But
Right. Like
right.
the old days.
But yeah, but there's a lot going on, and I remember, like, I think I must have been in junior high or high school. There was a mini series
Mhm.
that came out that was a version of it, and I remember
Oh,
watching it, but I don't remember anything about it. And I haven't read the
yeah.
book,
Maybe not
so
this
yeah,
time.
so
I haven't
yeah,
either. Yeah.
I want to say, and I could be wrong. I want to say Molly Ringwald was in the TV one.
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that time period wise, that
Right.
would be that would seem right.
So that but this one is it's a you know dark take.
Is Carrie Mulligan, is she the lead and
mm,
am I thinking of something different?
no.
There was something else I saw. It might have been a different Stephen King something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know the plot of The Stand. I
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. I think I'm just mixed up on
Yeah,
who's
no,
in it.
she's not,
But cool.
but there's a lot of James Marsden is one of the main characters. Yeah.
Oh,
Love that guy. I mean,
I do
yeah,
too. I mean, what a gem. Just what's wrong with him?
nothing.
Nothing.
So yeah, so that's a good show. It's very dark. It's a dystopian thing, but I mean, what's not right now?
Mhm.
So everything is.
Right.
Um, and then I watched more dystopia, and I know I've talked to you about it, but it's another one of those that I may have mentioned before. But The Wilds. Um,
Yeah. And
did we talk about it?
I know that we've talked it. I think we have, but I don't know if we talked about it
Well,
on here.
if we
Ooh.
did, forgive me, but it was one that when I
Hmm.
saw talking about the previews, I did look at the preview for it, and I was like, no, thank you. That is looks so dumb,
Oh, uh-huh.
but it was good. And
See, and that's another reason why sometimes trailers can be
yeah, I mean, you
deceiving.
have to stick with it a minute. Like it really changes like
Right.
what you think it's going to be, from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so they have it has been picked up for a second season, but they're just now making it, so um, it'll be a while.
It'll be a
But
little bit.
I'm looking forward to it.
Hmm.
It's basically it's about
Cool.
these girls who are going on a retreat, and they're all troubled in some way, but they're like on a private jet, so you know that they're most, if not all of them, are
Yes, I
privileged.
know. Yes, I watched the trailer too. Oh my gosh, and I had the same reaction.
This one's stuff.
I just realized what it is. Yeah, it gave me, the beginning of course gave me
Yeah.
Lost vibes, but the fact that you're recommending it makes me I'll
Yeah,
probably go back
because
and watch it.
I told my sister I'd watched it. She was like, "Really? Are you really? That's what you watched that whole thing?" And I said, "No, no, give it a chance. It's great." And so
Yes.
she and her husband both watched the whole thing and enjoyed it. So it's
Okay, good.
it has its moments, but it definitely keeps you guessing. And there's some surprises, and I don't know. My sister's opinion of it was that they should have just ended it at the end of the season, but she always wants
Uh
that. She always wants like a
mhm.
little package and just
Yeah,
tie it up.
tighten a bow.
Um,
Yeah.
but because what's going to happen in the next season is going to be like totally different um, setting and everything. So
And yeah, sometimes I
yeah,
have a problem with that. So I
yeah.
don't know, I see what she means,
Anyway,
but
but
cool.
it's funny and scary and weird and all the things that you want.
Cool. Yay. Because I'll probably finish Save Me this weekend. So I've
Yes,
got
you do
plenty
for
to move
sure.
on to.
Let's see. Oh, and then I started Bridgerton, which is another one that I was like, I'm
What
kind
is
of like,
that
if
one?
everybody's into it, I'm gonna poo poo it because it can't be that good.
Yeah, yeah. I usually watch stuff like that or listen or read, anything, stuff like that after the fact,
Yeah.
way after the fact. And then I end up loving it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, now I want to talk about the Hunger Games or whatever. And everyone's
We're
like,
over it.
no,
Yeah.
that was, yeah.
Yeah, I do that a little bit, but this one is I don't really know. I don't know. We'll see. I've only seen a few
Okay.
episodes, so I'm not sure have how I am, but
Yeah.
everybody else loves it. So maybe there's something I haven't caught on to yet, but
Right.
um I we'll give it a chance.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then
I'm willing to.
one of the last things I'll mention is my sister and nephew came over for over the holidays because they're my people in my bubble. So I
Uh-huh.
don't,
Yep.
that's who I spent the holidays with.
They're
Yeah,
your
and
entertainment.
so they
Yep.
have an Oculus, which is a virtual reality apparatus thing, and it
Hmm.
is so much fun. If you can get one, get it. You're gonna. It's I like.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like old school gaming fan. You know, grew
Hmm.
up playing
Hmm.
games. Like every Gen Xer. Like but
Right.
as a Gen Xer, now in my 40s, I'm not really gaming a whole lot, but and
Right.
games have no,
You're not?
you're not surprised. Um,
I love to imagine you sitting at home going to town on some
Yeah,
video
with a
games.
headset on, yelling at
With Pocket
12-year-old
and
kids
Pocket going
yelling at
crazy
each other.
behind you. Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, so no, I haven't done a whole lot of that. But one of my favorite games that I've played, as an adult, was called The Room,
Hmm.
and it's um, I played it on iPad, and it's
Okay.
like it's puzzles, and it's really mysterious. There's like no people in it.
Ooh.
It's a room, and you explore it,
Hmm.
and there's like clues, and anyway, it's really nice, beautifully done, really
Fun.
intricate details, and the artistic
Oh
work is
my
great.
gosh. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you in on that because it was awesome. And so
Oh my
that,
gosh.
though, I played on the iPad, and then they have a version of it for the Oculus. So you put this thing, and first of all, this technology. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a dork, not a geek here, because I'm not. I'm not. I'm not like. I'm
Right.
not. I'm not a geek for technology, so like that.
Right. We don't know
Yeah,
terminologies
yeah.
necessarily.
That's not
Yeah.
my biggest forte, but um, this thing is amazing. And so like you have it on, and it's like the speakers are directional, so like you can really hear it, but the people around you can't so much. And you
Uh-huh.
like, how you draw yourself um an area so it'll like warn you if you're going to walk into a wall or something. And you
Mm-hmm.
put this thing on, and yeah,
Thank
exactly.
God.
And it's not like hyper realism where you go, I'm really literally in another place. But it's very good. And it's
That's
360, so you can
nice.
look down
This
and all around, and you're in this room.
ah,
Um, it is
so
fun,
much
and it's really
fun.
unnerving. Like, I don't think I would play it when I was by
Yeah.
myself, just because it's odd. And
Oh.
the first time I put on the helmet, and I didn't even play that game, I was just like getting used to it. It I
Hmm.
took it off and kind of went woo, woozy. It's yeah,
Yeah. Oh man.
it's strange, um, but this game is just the room is so brilliant, and so it opens up, and you're like in this police office, and
Hmm.
you can kind of there's like things that you can interact with, and so you've got these things with your hands,
Right.
so that you have hands in the game, and you can pick things up and look at them, and
Oh, cool.
then you like basically, since you can't like literally walk around the room that you're in, you can like look at
Hmm.
a spot that you want to go to, and then you kind of just zap yourself there.
Hmm.
And so that too
Cool.
takes a little bit of getting used to, because you're like,
Oh my
it's like
gosh, I
blink of an eye and
bet.
you're in another part of the room. And
Oh yeah.
but it is so fun. But there, one thing I think I've told you about it, but it's there's a part, and it's really cool, the graphics and stuff. But you look at, like,
Hmm.
there's parts of the room that you can interact with by going inside them as though
Hmm.
you're like tiny. And so yes,
What?
you like
Oh my goodness. I don't know if you
you
did tell
you
me
would love this.
this.
It's so great. Yeah.
This part of
So like
it.
you
Oh
look
my
at
gosh.
a dollhouse, for example, and you can go
Uh-huh.
into it as though you were the size of a little doll in the dollhouse. And
Oh my gosh.
there's a
Oh my gosh.
transition, though. So when you look and you go, oh, okay, I can go in there. There's these little like
Hmm.
red crystals that sounds really goofy to describe it, but there's these little things that you can see, and that means that you can go inside the thing. Yeah,
I know what you mean. It's like
yeah.
your little signal
And
thing.
so
Yeah.
when you do that, the transition to go into the thing, you're standing on these little floating crystals as a tiny little miniature you.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. I'm standing on these crystals. I look down, and there is nothing beneath your feet. And I almost
Whoa.
fell to the ground in real life.
That's immediately what I pictured
And
myself
so
doing.
my and you can also like screen share it. So my sister and my nephew were watching
Oh my gosh.
what I'm seeing, sort of. Yeah.
What you were
And
doing.
so, but they,
Whoa.
you don't get that sense because you're not seeing it all around you. So I look down and I'm
Sure,
like,
sure.
ah, screaming. And they're like, what is it? What is it? And I'm like, I'm floating in the air. Yeah, I
You're
can't.
like balancing. Yeah.
And I have really bad vertigo. And so I can't
Oh
really even climb a ladder
no.
without getting dizzy and falling. And so I was like,
Yeah. You just
well, so
collapse
I
to the
just
ground.
immediately like looked up and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And they're laughing at me. They're like, come
Yeah.
on, you're kidding, be serious. And I took that thing off and I was like, no, I can't do it. I am
Look.
on the precipice on this thing. And it makes me, because I'm not afraid
Wow.
of heights. It makes me
I
physically ill. Like it makes me
no.
sick. And so that
Yeah.
was the one thing I was like, there should be
Yeah.
a warning that you're going to look like you're going to fall off a cliff on this thing. Yeah.
A crazy. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, make sure you're on like a soft carpet or something.
And I like, they made me try it again. And I got a little better at like just not looking down. But then there was another part of it
Yeah.
where you do have to kind of walk through this area. And I was like, I can't, you're going to have to do this part for me because I cannot like walk a tightrope thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, it really makes you feel like physically
This
like you would
is
fall, even though, you know, anyway.
yeah. I can't this is fascinating. My mouth is like hanging open right now.
I'm just happy to be
I
alive in
just
a time when this is something that you can do, you know?
Right,
It's
right. Yeah, I mean it's very Ready
yes,
Player
yeah.
One. Isn't that what
So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's a little
Wow.
expensive. It's not, it's not something that everybody can get, but
Yeah. But someday
yeah,
I'm sure it will
and
be.
everyone should look forward to that day.
Wow. Yes, I am. I'm counting down.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
And the last
fun.
thing I'll mention is I watched some part of it last night. Is It's a Netflix show. It's another one that when I saw it, I just thought, okay, this is just too silly, but it's actually funny, and that's the
Hmm.
history of swear words. And
Oh yes. I saw the trailer
yes,
for it.
so it's if you're offended by swear words, probably want to skip this one. But if
Right.
otherwise, there's a lot of like there's silliness and it's funny, but there's also some like interesting details and facts about it. Like we were talking about earlier that it's been proven that swearing releases endorphins and can cause you to feel less pain than if you yeah. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's also a bit in there about this historical example of this guy Phineas Gage, who had a railroad tie that went through his head.
Like that's not your real name, sir.
Well, and also his whole
Phineas
story is
Gage.
so outlandish. He was just like a normal everyday guy. A railroad tie spike thing went through his head, and he became a different
Mm-hmm.
person because it had gone through and
Wow.
had
Yeah.
destroyed his frontal lobe. And so
But he
he
survived
survived. Yeah,
it.
everybody hated him, but he was still alive.
But
And so anyway, it kind of ties in how the frontal lobe functions, and
yeah.
that guy's case is studied all the time. Like I've heard of him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I've heard the story. I did not know his name was Phineas Gage.
yeah.
I'll never forget that.
And so yeah,
But yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff too. Like there's one of the people who is throughout the episodes. There's recurring contributors like film critics and
Hmm.
comedians and actors and but one of
Yeah.
them is a woman who writes dictionary definitions and yeah, and so
Cool.
she talks about where the words origins were from, and how they've changed over the years, and their meanings started out in one way and then they get
Yeah.
used in a different way.
Yeah.
And like the way that it's filmed or the way that it's shown is it reminds me of another movie that's kind of about that, like, the same kind of topic, but it's about it's
Mm-hmm.
called This Film Is Not Yet Rated. And
Mm.
the Netflix series and that film both bring up um the Hays Code in Hollywood, which was, basically like what determined um what you could have in movies and what you couldn't. And the Hays Code is from back in
Mm-hmm.
the 30s,
Right.
and that was like their first sort of
Whoa.
attempt to, restrict what could be in films. And then in
Right.
the 60s, the Motion Picture Association of America, MPAA, was formed, and then they kind of controlled, and they're the ones who created ratings and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of really
Mm-hmm.
interesting history in it about that stuff.
Yeah. And that's yeah, it's something I've wondered about for sure. I remember watching some John Hughes film when I was maybe in high school, and it was rated PG. I want to say it was rated
Mm-hmm.
PG 13, and there was, I don't remember what it was, but there was something in it that I was like, I don't know, I was surprised by that you would never see it in a PG or PG 13
Exactly.
movie
Yeah.
today. It just made me wonder. Yeah, and I've always wondered sort of how did that,
Well,
what
I
was that
remember
process?
being a kid, and then when they introduced the PG-13 rating, like that didn't even exist in the 80s. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So a
See, I
lot of
did not
films, it,
know
it went
that.
from PG
Then
to
that's
R.
why.
And so, there were a lot of films that had a PG rating that that's very different from
Wow.
our PG rating now.
I'm wondering, like, is The Breakfast Club
Yeah, I
PG?
think so. Yeah.
That might have been what it
Yeah, but
was.
so there's a lot of stuff like that,
Yeah.
and This Film Is Not Yet Rated. It's a documentary, and it's pretty funny because it's about the MPAA, and they have these, like, at least at the time, I haven't looked into it recently if that's
Mm-hmm.
changed, but they have raters who are their identities are hidden, like they don't want anybody to know who
Mm-hmm.
they are, and yeah, so it's a real controversial
Oh.
thing that people who are doing this,
Yeah.
and so
Interesting.
filmmakers, like, it can make or break you depending on the rating that you get. So, like, if you're
Sure. Yeah. What's
right,
your
and so
audience?
you're,
Yeah.
which I'm not saying one way or the other that you should or shouldn't, necessarily, but people, parents want a guide.
Mm-hmm.
But like from the filmmaker's point of view, which is what's presented in that documentary, it's like
Mm-hmm.
if your film gets rated, if NC-17, for example, most theaters don't even show it.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
anyway, so that the documentary is really
Yeah.
fascinating in that it shows, so this guy's making the documentary, and he submits it to the MPAA, and then records how they interact with him. So it's kind of like this, you know
Oh.
folding in on itself kind of thing. And
Yeah.
because at the time, like, they would say, well, we rate this based on what we think, families and parents would want. And then they also would
Mm-hmm.
say that
Mm-hmm.
they they only give a rating like as a general, you know, uh, they look at it as holistically. But then what was
Okay.
uncovered in the documentary is that actually, um, you, kind of depending on who you were, you could, they would tell you
Okay.
specifically, okay, you take out this 30 seconds or this word, and then we'll change your rating. And they claimed they would never do that, but
Right.
in reality, they did.
But
Yeah.
there's some negotiating, sure.
Anyway,
Oh,
so
yeah.
um, both of those, as long as you are, not too put off by swear words, both really interesting documentaries, and both have plenty of, humor as well as, like, history. So, yeah.
Nice. I've got some entertaining to
Yeah.
do
And I
for
think we
myself.
just hit a record for length
We
of
did.
podcasts.
We needed to, yeah, we needed to catch up, clearly.
We'll try to rein it in next time. So, But yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's all we have. And we will
Yeah.
look forward to next week. And again, like you are, our audience is welcome to um, call in if you have examples that you want to share
Hmm.
or questions or anything like that. I would think it would be a lot of fun to interact that way. And or
I
you can just
agree.
send us some message. Everybody knows where to find us, right? And
Yes.
so we'll look
I
forward to
think so.
that and see you next week.